My 17-year-old daughter spent 3 whole days preparing food for 23 guests for my mom's birthday party. Then just at the last minute, my dad texted. The plan had changed. We were now celebrating at a restaurant, and it was adults only. I didn't make a scene. Instead, I did something else. 15 hours later, the door started shaking. It was 10 minutes before the guests were supposed to arrive when I received the message. I was standing in the kitchen doorway, trying to keep myself from crying over a beet salad. Not because of the beets though. They did look a little like something you might find in a surgery tray, but it was because my daughter was bouncing around the kitchen as if her whole future depended on whether Grandma liked her lavender glaze. Maybe in her mind, it did. Eva had been up since 5 a.m. and 12 a.m. That wasn't an exaggeration. I heard her alarm. She'd already baked, prepped, frosted, stirred, burnt one thing and remade it, and even steam cleaned the floor, because in her words it was giving off health inspector energy. The table was set for 23 people. Handwritten name cards, fresh flowers, printed menus, everything. The whole room smelled like thyme, butter, and something sweet that I couldn't quite identify. It smelled expensive. Eva had curled her hair, her apron was spotless, and she was glowing in that tired, adrenaline-charged way you only see in cooking competition finalists or brides who are second-guessing themselves. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message in the family group chat, the one we usually use for things like Happy Easter and blurry photos of casseroles. This one was from my dad. We've decided to celebrate at a restaurant. It's adults only. No punctuation, no apology, just that. At first, I thought I had misread it, or that it was a joke. Eva had just pulled a tray of sugar-free pear tarts out of the oven for Grandma's diabetic neighbor. She was humming. I stepped into the hallway as though I were answering a call. Not yet, though. I just needed to stop my hands from shaking. I stared at the message. We've decided. Not I've decided. We. I called my dad first. It rang twice. Hey, he said, sounding cheerful. Did you get the message? You're not coming? I asked. My voice was steady, only because my body had slipped into some kind of survival mode. No. We changed the plan. It's just easier this way. You're at the restaurant right now? I asked. Yep. Just sat down. The menu looks great. Everyone's here. Pause. Why? Because Ava's been cooking for 3 days. You said we'd host it here. She made enough food for 23 people. She's been up since 5 this morning. There was silence on the other end for a moment. Oh well, tell her not to take it personally. She can freeze the leftovers, can't she? Gotta go, waiter's here. I just stared at the phone. Then I called my mom. She answered like nothing was wrong. Did you really just not come? I asked. There was a sigh on the other end. Honey, don't start. We just thought it would be more convenient. And honestly, we didn't want to risk anyone getting sick. Sick, I said. She's 17, Jenna. It's sweet, but it's not exactly unsafe to serve food cooked by a child. Well, that's nice, she interrupted. But it's not real cooking. Not like at a restaurant. I hung up. I didn't trust myself not to scream. I called my sister next, not because I expected better, but because I had this hope just maybe she didn't know. Maybe she was left out of the decision. She wasn't. Oh, Jenna, she said. Don't guilt everyone over this. She's crying. She's dramatic. She's exhausted. She's 17. She needs to learn not everything's about her. She made food for 23 people, and none of us wanted to be her test subjects. The way she said test subjects made my jaw tighten, as though Ava was some lab rat. I hung up mid-sentence. I didn't care what she had to say next. I stood there for a second, trying to remember how to breathe. Behind me, Ava was still talking. Do you think the pomegranate glaze is too sweet? I didn't want to overdo it. Also, is the lighting too warm? I wanted it to feel like a real restaurant, but not fake fancy. And Mom, she stopped. I turned. My face must have said too much because she stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes flicked down to the phone in my hand. Then she took it. I didn't stop her fast enough. Her thumb opened the group chat, and her eyes scanned the screen. Then she saw the photo. A long table, glasses clinking, my sister's kids, barely 18, smiling with plates already full, my mother beaming, and my father holding up a wine glass. Ava stared at it for too long, then hit the call button. "Grandma," she said. I couldn't hear the other side of the conversation, but I saw her nodding, then not nodding. Her face crumpled in on itself, like someone had stepped on her chest. She didn't wail or sob. She just let the tears fall slowly, like something inside her had given up. Like she was even embarrassed to cry. I reached for her, but she stepped back. She set the phone down gently, like it was made of glass. Then she turned toward the cake. It was beautiful. 3 layers, piped rosettes, "Happy 67th Grandma," written in dark chocolate. She stared at it, silent. I stood there useless and then thought, no. Not this time. Not again. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I knew I wasn't going to let them define her moment or end it. Not without seeing what happened next. I used to think the worst kind of pain was watching your child cry. Turns out it's watching them try not to, because they don't want to hurt you. That night, after everyone else was clinking glasses at the restaurant, I stood in the hallway outside her bedroom holding a plate of untouched roast duck, and wondering how the hell we got here. Of course, deep down I knew exactly how. It started when I was born. No, I'm not exaggerating. I was the second daughter, 2 years younger, and completely unplanned. My mom never directly used the word mistake, but she didn't need to. She would say things like, "We thought we were done after your sister, and then you came as a surprise, but a sweet one." In other words, we didn't plan on having another, but we're making it work. My sister was the epitome of what they wanted. Graceful, social, blonde. She could spin around and receive applause. Me? I could take apart a broken fan and put it back together to work better. But all I got for that was a lecture on how I shouldn't mess with man things. She was into ballet. I once took apart a toaster and got grounded for wrecking appliances. They funded every dance class, every recital, and all those gold sequin performances. When I asked if I could attend a weekend workshop on leatherworking, I was told, "We can't afford that. Besides, what would you even do with it?" Well, I turned it into a business. Years later, I run a small but thriving company making custom handmade home goods. My husband works with wood. Together, we make a decent income. Nothing extravagant, just good, honest work. My parents still call it a nice little side project. Meanwhile, my sister has 2 degrees in literature and dance, but her job stability is about as solid as a sneeze in a windstorm. Still, she's lovely, elegant and adored. And because life has a sense of humor, I still help her out financially from time to time, quietly, without a word. Birthdays, travel expenses, the occasional broken water heater at my parents' house. All of it gets quietly covered by the Jenna's Doing Fine Fund. My parents treat my money like community property and my opinions like spam. Then came Ava, my daughter, my heart, my perfect karma. She's like me but bolder. She has quirky interests, sure, but no apologies about them. Her hands are either covered in flour or sticky with some sauce she's inventing. She once cried because her dolls lacked emotional depth. I have no clue what that means, but I love her for it. Ava wants to be a chef, not just likes to cook, but wants to be a chef. She reads restaurant reviews the way other kids scroll through TikTok. She talks about Michelin stars like their philosophy. She's already figuring out which culinary school to apply to and whether to specialize in pastry or savory dishes. She's 17, and just like they did to me, the family keeps trying to extinguish her spark. Oh, it's cute that she likes to play around in the kitchen. She'll grow out of it. She's too sensitive for that career. Maybe she should consider something more academic like her aunt. Right. Because massive debt and no job security is now the dream. I've watched Ava bite her tongue more times than I can count. Once, after a family brunch, she locked herself in the bathroom for 20 minutes. When I found her, her eyes were red, and she was pretending it was all due to chopping onions 6 hours ago. So when she came to me and said, "Mom, I want to cook for Grandma's birthday this year," the whole thing. Just me. I was a little shocked but also proud. She understood how hard it would be, how harsh they could be. Yet she still wanted to do it. I asked her 3 times, "Are you sure?" Each time, she nodded more firmly. "I want to show them what I can do." And she did. She created a menu, printed it, and organized the kitchen like a military operation. She took into account every food allergy, dietary restriction, and personal preference. My dad doesn't eat mushrooms, and my mom thinks cilantro tastes like soap. Ava adjusted for both. She used her own money to buy the ingredients, tested everything, and even borrowed a friend's cake turntable to perfect her frosting technique. Every night, she showed me her list, with check marks beside completed tasks, and asked, "Do you think they'll like it?" I told her yes each time, but I hated that she even had to ask. The morning of the party, she was up at 5 a.m. No exaggeration. I heard the pans clattering, classical music playing softly. She says it helps her focus, and the sound of her heels tapping on the floor as she moved between the oven and counter. By 4 p.m., she was exhausted but glowing, radiant as if she was doing what she was meant to do. You probably know what happened next. They didn't show up. They went to a restaurant instead. All of them, my parents, my sister, my niece, my nephew. Even the latecomers with store-bought dip showed up. The only people missing were me and my daughter, who had made a 3-tier cake and written, "Happy 67th," in dark chocolate curls. They didn't just reject the food, they rejected her, and they didn't even bother to lie about it. But here's what I haven't told you yet. That night, while Ava was in her room pretending to scroll through her phone, I got a notification. A charge of $1,327.90. My business card had been used to pay for a meal at that same restaurant. The one they were at, with the same number of people. They used my card to pay for the meal that replaced my daughter's dinner. I stood in the kitchen, holding her tart crust in one hand, staring at the charge. First I laughed. It was either that or throw a plate. Then I felt it. The kind of angered clarity that hits just before a storm. They didn't just erase her. They made me pay for her erasure, and thought we'd just sit quietly. They thought wrong. I should have been the calm one, the adult, the mom with the soothing words saying, "It's okay, honey. You did your best." But I wasn't in that mood. Ava was still in the kitchen, standing rigidly in front of her cake, her hands clenched at her sides like she wanted to throw something but didn't want to ruin her own frosting. I couldn't blame her. That cake was a masterpiece. She had piped chocolate lace around the bottom and candied edible violets on top. It looked like something in a display case. She turned to me, her eyes red, and said, "We should just throw it all away." I stared at her. "No, Mom. No. If they won't eat it, someone else will." "Like who?" I didn't have an answer yet, but my hands were already moving. I grabbed my phone and started scrolling. Ava didn't know it yet, but I was about to set the whole evening on fire. First, I called my husband. He was still at work, which only made me angrier. "I need you home now." He didn't ask questions, just said, "I'll be there in 20. Then I started calling everyone I could think of, old friends, neighbors, people from my local community group, and even a woman I met at a charity bake sale 2 years ago. I didn't care. I told them the truth. My daughter spent 3 days cooking for her grandmother's birthday. They ditched her. She made 23 meals. I needed people who could eat. It wasn't an invitation, it was a summons. To my surprise, people showed up fast. By the time my husband arrived, the first 2 cars were already parked. One neighbor brought a bottle of wine, and an entire extended family who didn't have dinner plans. A woman from a book club I barely remembered showed up with her son, and a bouquet of tulips. Word spread quicker than I expected. It felt like watching a protest form, dish by dish. Ava was initially horrified. She whispered, "Oh my God, Mom, what are you doing?" I turned to her and said, "I'm saving what's left of your dignity and dessert. Help me find more chairs." This was something beautiful. It wasn't out of pity, but pure defiance. That comment quieted her, though only because her mind was clearly processing. We quickly pushed 2 folding tables together and began laying out the food. By the time the third group of guests arrived, Eva had retreated to the kitchen, frantically reheating everything while quietly panicking over the sauce temperature. Then the journalist showed up. "I didn't invite her," I explained. "Someone else did." She was a friend of a friend, someone in food media. She entered with a small camera bag and a large taste for drama. "I heard what happened," she said. "Mind if I try a few things?" I glanced at Ava, who stood frozen by the oven, eyes wide, as if she'd been asked to perform live on TV while holding a stool. I nodded for her and handed the journalist a plate. The journalist didn't just taste the food. She photographed it, asked about ingredients, and took notes. At one point she whispered, "You know she's better than some of the professional chefs I've reviewed, right?" I swallowed hard. Tell her that. Eventually, the crowd settled. All 23 seats were taken. Eva peeked nervously from the kitchen and asked, "Should I serve the appetizer?" I told her, "No, serve your menu." And so she did. The room went silent as the first course was served, followed by murmurs. "Oh wow, is that lavender? This is incredible." By the time the main course came out, there was applause. By dessert, someone stood up to toast to Ava. To the girl who cooked an entire feast, didn't give up when she was pushed down, and whose food tastes better than anyone we've ever paid to feed us. She received a standing ovation. Then, as fate would have it, a second cake arrived. Not hers. Someone brought a store-bought one as a backup, but they insisted Ava cut hers. She did, smiling just enough to make it real. And I finally exhaled. But the night wasn't over. At 2 a.m., I was still awake when I received the text, a link to a feature article that was already live. The birthday that wasn't. How a teen chef cooks for 23, was abandoned, and ended up hosting the year's most memorable dinner. The article didn't just praise Ava's cooking, it told the whole story. How her grandmother's birthday was supposed to be at our house, how Ava cooked everything herself, how the family decided, with no notice, to go to a restaurant instead, and how they used my credit card to pay for it. They didn't name my parents, but they made sure to identify Ava and made it clear who stayed and who walked away. I stared at the screen, shocked. Then I checked the comments section. It had already started. "She's amazing. Where can I taste her food? Who leaves their own granddaughter like that?" I looked at Ava, asleep on the couch, still in her apron, hands curled as if she was holding a spatula. And I knew this wasn't the end. Not even close. The article was already making waves, and some people wouldn't like what it stirred up. There's a special silence before someone knocks on your door in anger. You don't hear footsteps, a car, or shouting, just a stillness, as if the air itself is holding its breath. I was washing dishes when it happened. Half the cake was still in the fridge. I hummed softly, allowing myself a brief moment of peace when bang bang bang. I dried my hands, peered out the window and almost laughed. They really showed up. My parents stood on the porch in matching windbreakers, fuming like actors in a courtroom drama. Behind them, slightly out of view but obviously there to make a statement, was my sister. I opened the door, tired of hiding, but didn't invite them in. "You need to fix this," my dad snapped, skipping any greetings. My mom chimed in. "Do you know what you've done to our reputation?" My sister stayed quiet, letting them speak first. Very traditional of her. I blinked. "What I've done?" They pushed past me before I could stop them, into my hallway, into my kitchen, into my home, like they still had control. "You told the media we abandoned Ava," my mom hissed. I crossed my arms. "I didn't tell them anything. A journalist came, tried the food Ava made, heard the story, and wrote about it. Honestly, I think they went easy on you." My dad pointed a finger at me. "You think this is funny? Everyone at church read it. Our neighbors read it. My golf group won't even reply to my messages." I raised an eyebrow. Devastating. That's when my sister spoke up. "You need to tell them it wasn't true," she said, her voice strained with feigned calm. "You need to say it was exaggerated, taken out of context." I stared at her. Taken out of context? Did someone hack your phone and send that text from the restaurant? Did I imagine the $300 charge on my card? Did Ava hallucinate the photos you all posted from the dinner? My mom's voice cracked. "She made us look like monsters." I said quietly, "No, you did that yourselves. She just cooked." That's when the shouting started. They weren't even talking to me anymore. They were talking at me, around me, through me. "She's just a child and she's already learned how to use the internet. She humiliated her grandmother for attention. You raised her wrong. She's dramatic. She's ungrateful." And then it hit me like a slap. My mom turned to Ava, who had quietly walked into the hallway behind me, and said, "You should be ashamed of yourself." I don't remember moving. 1 second, I was in the doorway. The next, I was standing between them and my daughter. That's when my husband came in. He didn't ask any questions. He just saw their faces, saw Ava's tears, and stepped in like a bouncer. "Out," he said. My dad laughed. "This is a family matter." "No," my husband replied. "This is my home. You came here to scream at a 17-year-old girl who made you dinner. You don't get to hurt her twice. Not today. Not ever." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. They stood there for a moment, fuming, rattling, and deflating. Then my sister muttered something about legal action and stormed out. My parents followed. Slam. Silence. Ava was still standing behind me, silent, rigid. I went to hug her, but she turned toward the living room window. There were phones pointed at our house. 3 of them. I leaned closer and saw the source. Our neighbor, Jeff, was standing on his lawn with a shocked expression. The same Jeff who runs the local Facebook group and live-streamed our last neighborhood barbecue. Of course, I gave him a wave that said both hello and "I will set your compost bin on fire if you post this." Too late. That evening, a video appeared online. Title: The grandparents from that viral teen chef story just showed up at her house and screamed at her. Watch what they said. The internet did what it does. It lit a match. The comments were brutal. Imagine being this bitter over a cake. They sound like they're auditioning for villains in a Hallmark movie. Who yells at a kid who cooked them dinner? One comment said, "This is why some of us cut off our families." That night, before I blocked my parents, I saw the final round of texts. First, "You've ruined us." Then, "We'll take legal action if you don't issue a correction." Then, "This is elder abuse." Right. I didn't reply. I blocked all of them. My parents, my sister, their side of the group chat, and I deleted the card they used for that dinner. That particular act of financial betrayal wouldn't happen again. Later, I posted something simple. Not a rant, not a call-out, just a sentence. "We stand by every word and we're done protecting people who hurt our daughter." I expected backlash. What I got was support. Old friends messaged me. Strangers messaged Ava. A local chef invited her to intern in his kitchen over the summer. Someone from a culinary program she had always dreamed about said they'd be watching her journey closely. We didn't celebrate, but we finally exhaled. Fast forward a year. Ava got in. Not just anywhere. The program she used to whisper about, the one she thought was impossible. She's still in her first year, but already has clients. People want her to cook for events, bake for birthdays, cater small dinners. Some even reference the article. Her food blog is taking off. She posts recipes, photos, videos. She has real followers, people who see her. She's different now. Not louder, not bolder, just steadier. She never reached out to my parents again. Neither did I. We heard they moved to a town 2 hours away. Too many people stopped inviting them. Too many friends suddenly had plans. They told someone they wanted a quieter life. Sure, Ava never got a real apology, and I never got my money back for that restaurant dinner, but we got something better. Clarity. Peace. Ava got a future built with her own hands, and they can't take that away from her. So yeah, that's how my daughter's first heartbreak became her first headline. How a ruined birthday turned into a full-course rebirth, and how I stopped funding people who thought they could buy silence with guilt. I chose my daughter. I'd do it again tomorrow. But tell me, did I go too far or just far enough? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell.